Hello my witchy friends, welcome to the channel, or welcome back if you are a returning subscriber. My name is Sophie, I'm the Midwest Magician, and today I wanted to review Baba Yaga's Book of Witchcraft by Madame Pamita. So if you're a fan of folk tales, wild hair, the deep dark forest, and if you're brave enough, this book might be right up your alley. And just a quick disclaimer before we dive into the book review, I am just sharing my personal thoughts, opinions, and takeaways from this book. So if you've also read this book and you have things that you want to add or share, please do so in the comments down below, but all I ask is that you be respectful because I am just sharing my personal thoughts, opinions, and takeaways from this book. But that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the review. First, I want to give just a little bit of background on the author, Madame Pamita. Madame Pamita is a Ukrainian-American witch, teacher, author, candle maker, spellcaster, and tarot reader. She's the author of The Witch's Guide to Animal Familiars, which just came out January 2025, Baba Yaga's Book of Witchcraft, the Book of Candle Magic, Magical Tarot, and co-author of Cancer Witch. She is also the proprietress of the online spiritual apothecary, The Parlor of Wonders, and lives in Santa Monica, California. I will have her website as well as her Instagram linked down below. So why did I choose this book? I know that you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but come on, look at how flashy and stunning this is. I also have been very curious about Baba Yaga for several years, and of course I've known all of the rumors and the stories. However, I felt like she was a misunderstood figure. So when I saw this book, I decided to put it on my wish list for a Yule gift exchange, and I was absolutely thrilled when it came in the mail and I was able to learn more about Baba Yaga. So I'm gonna give you a quick spoiler-free synopsis of the book. Please forgive me because I have trouble pronouncing names and words in my own language, so I'm going to try my absolute very best. This book follows a Slavic folktale, and it can go by one of two names, Vasilyana the Brave or Vasilyana the Beautiful. And again, I apologize if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. I'm gonna Google the pronunciation.
Vasilina.
Okay, I was way off. My apologies. However, this folktale will be the main crux and overarching story connecting all of the chapters of the book together. I kind of like to think of the folktale as the vehicle that takes us from one chapter to the next. I personally was not familiar with this folktale, so it was nice to kind of go into it blind and see where the story took me. However, if you are already familiar with that folktale, that is totally fine because there is so much more going on with the book besides the main story. We also learn about Baba Yaga and see Baba Yaga's perspective on what's going on in the story, which I personally thought was a very cool way to kind of get to know Baba Yaga better. Alongside that, we also get a very in-depth look at the different traditions and folk magic that our author has shared from her own culture and life experience. As far as the folktale goes, it is kind of a heavier story. However, that being said, I never left a chapter feeling down or feeling sad. It takes place in a village and we are constantly kind of moving locations, going deeper and deeper into the woods until we find Baba Yaga. The way that this book is formatted and written is unlike any other. As I kind of briefly discussed, we have the overarching folktale broken down into chapters. After the section of folktale, we have Baba Yaga's perspective and point of view, followed by our author breaking down life experience, breaking down culture, breaking down traditions, and sharing different magic that you, the reader, can partake in. The pacing of this book kept me very engaged. I kept turning page after page and I did not want to put it down. The main themes I found in the folktale would be those of perseverance and bravery. Our main character faces a lot of challenges, a lot of hardship, and confusion throughout the story. However, the entire time she dusts herself off, puts on a brave face, and continues on. And these messages from the folktale were very admirable and always a great reminder for me. My personal favorite thing about the book is the wisdom and the magic that Madame Pamita had to share with us. This book is 21 chapters, and while they are all cohesive with the folktale, you can really kind of use each chapter as a magical reference. Everything discussed in each chapter is very thorough, and I never left a chapter feeling like I had any lingering questions questions. On the flip side, I actually left each chapter feeling a lot of inspiration and motivation to try these different things on my own. I do really love the entire book, but I wanted to share a few chapters that really stood out to me. The first chapter goes into cross-stitching, and while I am not somebody who is good at embroidery, I am somebody who loves to bake bread. So learning about the different patterns of the cross stitches gave me a lot of inspiration to take some of those patterns and to score them on some loaves of bread that I baked. And I did give some of that bread as an offering to Baba Yaga. I hope she is okay with me sharing that. The next chapter that really stood out to me was actually the second chapter, and that one is about the poppet that our main character works with throughout the story. This chapter teaches you how to make one of your own, and I did in fact do that. Here is my little dolly. And in true folk witch fashion, I used this from fabric scraps from other projects that we had previously been working on. And to add an extra layer, the fabric that was previously being worked on was taken from an old shirt. My little dolly was so much fun to make. She lives on my bookshelf, and I do bring her out during workings just in case I need some wisdom. My next favorite chapter was chapter 4, and this one goes really in depth into crossroads magic. If you saw my 2025 witchcraft reading list, then you will know that I have an interest in learning more about the crossroads, and I did not expect to see that kind of magic in this book. So I really learned a lot from that, and I'm very excited to bring that into my personal practice. The last chapter that I'm going to talk about is chapter 9, and this chapter goes into all of the different kinds of practitioners and what their magic looks like. This chapter was really fun for me because I could see little parts of my practice in a bunch of the different practitioners listed. So it was really fun to kind of learn more in depth what the names to these practices were and what their specialties really are. I have to be completely honest, it was really hard to narrow down my favorite chapters within this book. As far as dislikes for the book go, I really didn't have any. As you can see, I have personal issues with pronunciation, but that's not the book's fault. Like I said, I am really bad at just pronouncing names that I've been around my entire life. So in the case of this book, Google is my friend. This book really resonated with me on a personal level for several reasons. The first is that I truly enjoyed how our main folktale character was constantly looking to her ancestors for guidance. She gave offerings often, and she really trusted in the help and guidance that they offered her, which can sometimes be a little bit hard to do when doing spirit work. I also found myself really resonating deeply to the practices and magic discussed in these chapters. I personally really love kind of slow and intentional living, and a lot of the magic in this book really harkens back to the times where things needed to be made by hand and done out of necessity and with intention. I personally love finding magic in everyday tasks, so be it our character putting logs on their pitch or spinning yarn or sorting through different things. I think that's personally where I find a lot of magic within my practice. And I don't mean that to say that I'm putting logs on the pitch. I just think there's so much magic in taking the time and effort to work on our everyday tasks. So that part of the book, all of the practical magic mentioned, really spoke to my soul. I think this book is very captivating. It's very entertaining. I'm personally going to use it as a reference book and as a guidebook for my own magical practice. And really, I just love the amount of magic that was shared and the true effort and labor of love that our author put into this book to share with anyone who is willing to put the work in. As far as who should read this book, I really do think that it could be for anybody. I mostly kind of see people who are interested in folk practices, folk magic, and approaching their craft from a very practical standpoint as being the most interested in this book. but I could see this being a great guide and reference for a lot of different practitioners. Overall, Baba Yaga's Book of Witchcraft has very rapidly become one of my favorite witchcraft books. I love the way it's formatted and how everything is driven by the main folktale. The overall feel of the book is very old world, which if you saw my Lost Oracle deck review, then you know that is something that I absolutely adore. There really is so much magic shared within each chapter that it was hard for me to pick a favorite, let alone hard for me to narrow it down to 4 favorites. The magic shared in each chapter is mostly for very practical use, and I absolutely adore that Madame Pamita was willing to share her life experience and her culture with the rest of the world. If you've read Baba Yaga's Book of Witchcraft, I would love to hear your thoughts down below. Let me know what you thought of it. Let me know what your favorite chapters were. And if you made it to the end of the video, can you leave me a little chicken emoji to represent Baba Yaga's living hut? I love to see who watches to the end of the videos. If you liked this book review, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me out with the algorithm and it lets me know what kind of videos you guys like to see from me. If you're not yet subscribed, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss future videos, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!